Hey, guess what finally arrived in the mail? So you know what that means. It's time for a family feud. Alright, from the top. Originally had a different video I was going to put up, but I decided I wanted to go somewhere different. You know, the fact of the matter, the two books I'm going to talk about today, the Jinny Hex Special and the Jonah Hex Riders of the Worm and such, neither one of them are going to make you rich. Pretty much guarantee that. In fact, Jonah Hex Riders and the Worm and such, when I picked that up back in 1995 from a comic shop at $4.25 Canadian each, I could probably buy that for less money today. That's how much they've gone up. So, in short, they haven't at all. Will the Jinny Hex Special appreciate? No, I really don't think so. What will appreciate and what makes me rather upset is the Walmart exclusive 100-page giant Batman #4, which has Jinny's first appearance, which was a terrible decision by DC. Like, who came up with that? Like, you've already dropped Diamond as your distributor. But then you go and put a fan favorite character first appearance into Walmart, like excluding the comic shops who carry your comics month over month. Put her first appearance in Young Justice, for crying out loud. Like, why would you do that? Just bad decisions. But anyway, that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about what gives a character legs, in legs as in you know, what makes them stick around for a long time, what makes them popular, what defines the character to us. Like, let's put it simple. Well-known characters here. Batman. Okay, Batman is a vengeance story, but Batman didn't get his metaphysical or metaphorical legs until the decision was not made that he couldn't kill anybody. Like, that's his own line he cannot cross. Because when Batman first came out, he had a gun. Like, way back in 1939, the original character. Like, he wasn't above killing people. Especially, like, bad guys, right? But until that, basically, development was made that he cannot kill. He is this burning fire of vengeance, having watched his parents brutally murdered in front of him around the age of 10. But this fire is always tempered by justice. He has to be the law on that side. So, he is not the vigilante that's going to go out there and claim vengeance for himself. He's going to play by the book, more or less, and bring criminals to justice. That is what makes Batman great. Spider-Man. This is one where they got right off the bat. I wanted to also talk a little bit about what should be required reading for anybody writing comics, and that is The Art of Plotting by Linda J. Cowgill. So basically, when you're writing professionally, what you're doing, you're plotting emotion. So let's take Spider-Man for example. So Peter Parker, before he was bitten by a spider, nerd, not popular with the girls, smart kid, but maybe ostracized by society at large, orphan. He was a character a lot of kids reading comics could identify with because, let's face it, back in 1963 or whatever, it wasn't the popular athletic types that were reading comics. So that's the first kind of plot point emotion. Second, gets bit by a spider, radioactive spider. Okay, that's weird, fear. Wow, something changed there. Gains powers, wonderment. Wow. Decides to use these powers to make money to, pay back Uncle Ben and Aunt May. So he's entering into what he sees as like normal society, or I'm going to make something of myself. I'm going to pay them back. That's fantastic, right? Gets screwed over by a wrestling promoter. We've all been there. And then he makes a decision any of us could make, is that, none of my business. It's stop that guy who stole all the promotions money. Well, you didn't pay me what you promised me anyway, so why should I, right? You've already lied to me. That same criminal goes and kills Uncle Ben in his getaway. So profound sense of loss. It's like, I could have stopped them. I didn't. Then comes, it's the spiritual journey, right? So Peter comes and knows that he has great powers, but he must use these powers for good to help, prevent something like what he's just been through from happening to other people. So all this was in one issue. So Ditko and Stan Lee basically nailed it in Amazing Fantasy 15. Batman, it took a little while. I don't know how many issues, but it took a handful of issues for Batman to sort of develop that. I am vengeance, but I cannot kill. So I'm always, the fuel for the fire is always there and it will never be extinguished, right? Jinny Hex right now hasn't found her legs. What she has found is the freaking look. Nick Darrington nailed it. This is how I want to see my Jinny Hex from now on. I want to see her in jeans, cowboy boots, state of Texas belt buckle, cowboy hat. Right there. That's Jinny. I don't think the writers have nailed the character yet. There's a few things that could have changed. Now, I'm going to get into what maybe I would have done, or what I would suggest people would have done. Is that, okay, she's an orphan, great. Let's say, okay, your mom owned a garage. Maybe her mom was a fantastic mechanic. Maybe she was naturally gifted as a mechanic. But maybe the people of Stillwater, Texas, or whichever town she's born in, didn't want a lady mechanic to look after their trucks. But those who knew that her mom was a great mechanic. But then her mom died of ovarian cancer. And because, not everybody wanted to have their vehicle serviced at Heck Garage, maybe they had some debt, right? So, here's poor Jinny. She's an orphan. She has some good friends, but she also has a whole lack of debt that she needs to take care of, or else they're going to lose the garage and she's going to be homeless. So what does she do? Well, her great-great-great-granddaddy, or however many back, Jonah Hex, left her trunk full of weird stuff that her mom never opened. She didn't really care for Jonah Hex and thought maybe he was a scoundrel way back when, a Confederate soldier, kind of a stain on the family name. Fine. But Jenny thinks, hey, maybe there's something of value in that trunk. So she opens it, and she finds all this weird stuff. Some of it's got to be valuable, right? So, hey, and if I don't sell some of this, I'm going to lose the garage. So she goes on eBay, and she puts this weird glowing orby thing, figuring it's got to be worth something, right? So, anyway, that's where the antagonist, Jack, three-eyed Jack, comes into play. Now, spoiler alert. Skip the next 5 seconds. Jack turns out to be your father. Okay, now if you've skipped, you're safe. So this fellow Jack comes and, offers her money for this weird glowing eye. Enough to cover off all her debts. Now, she has a bad feeling about this. She's like, maybe I shouldn't. Something weird. I'm getting into stuff I don't know about. So, but, she needs the money, so she does. That's her mistake. Same with Peter Parker. He should have stopped the criminal from stealing the money, and he could have saved Uncle Ben. Well, Jinny makes that mistake too, in that, hey, I don't know what this God's eye is, and this guy wants to offer me a boatload of cash for it. Great, I'll take it. I think that would have been a more interesting background. The other thing, I don't own the 100-page giant Batman #4. Would like to, but I also don't want to pay that much money for it. It's quite expensive now. But here's what you do with Jinny. You make her basically the Indiana Jones of the DC universe. There's a lot of potential there. She's already got a good start. There's so many weird and wonderful artifacts from the DC archives. She's got a handful of them. As she learns how to use them, she can hang out with the Superman, the Wonder Womans, the Batmans of the world, just by her own basically clever tactics and wit and resilience, like her great-great-great-grandfather before her. It's a brand new world. It's a world of superpowers, but show that, a smart character can, with the right tools, basically stand on equal footing, or even a little better. That would be interesting. That would be kind of cool. So where they're going to go with Jinny, I don't know. I hope good places, but for now, let's dip into the past, and we'll look at Riders of the Worm and such, which is a fun little series in its own right. 2 places I want to start with are basically the writer and the principal artist, the penciler, Tim Truman. Now, Joe R. Lansdale, prolific writer. He's the winner of the British Fantasy Award, the American Horror Award, the Edgar Award, and 6 Bram Stoker Awards. He's wrote a couple, well, more than a couple movies, but 2 movies that most people would know would be Bubba Hotep and Cold in July. He's responsible for both of those. Now, Tim Truman, what's interesting, the first time I ever saw him was basically from Dungeons & Dragons module N1 against the Cult of the Reptile God way back in the early 80s. He did the art on that. Now Tim Truman's gone on to do a number of comics as well, including the Jonah Hex. The first series he did with Lansdale was Two Gun Mojo. Riders of the Worm and such is actually the second set of books they did together. The third was Shadows West. I believe that was published in 1999. So that's kind of their 3 Jonah Hex works. Tim Truman has also done Scout, Grimjack, so he's done a fair number of comics as well. He's perfect for Jonah Hex. He has that kind of gritty realism art. It's, like I said, it's a fun story. The art is quite good. A lot of action, a lot of fair amount of comedy as well. I think it was probably that comedy that got the series into a little bit of hot water. Basically, I didn't know this until I started researching it, but Riders of the Worm and such actually had a lawsuit against it. And the main reason is because of the portrayal of the Autumn brothers, two kind of horrific misfits, genetic mutation characters that are sort of the principal bad guys here. Now they're based on the Jonathan and Edgar Winters, who are part of the Edgar Winter group. And from all accounts, like wonderful people, fantastic band too, from the 70s. And I hope that Joe R. Lansdale, obviously it's a parody, of course, but you hope that I'm sure there was nothing malicious about it. I don't know the situation. I think it was just an attempt to be funny that wasn't perceived as being funny, so there was a lawsuit for defamation by the Edgar and Jonathan Winter. Again, it was the courts ruled in favor of DC Comics in this one, and so they should. But again, it's one of those things like, do you have to parody famous people in your comics? Is it a good idea? Probably not. Just ask, if you don't believe me, ask Spawn's creator Todd McFarlane, who got sued by Tony Twist just for including the character name in the Spawn comics. Again, ridiculous lawsuit. Not a good idea to go the Mad Magazine route and spoof people. I think, and I honestly believe in this case, it wasn't intended to be malicious. It was more of a, perhaps meant to be funny, meant to be a parody, just was not perceived as such. But, you know, overall, that aside, still a fun little series, still Jonah is what Jonah is in this one, and he's a badass bounty hunter, and he's a guy you want on your side. So I think it could have been a better series. I do like the Cthulhu elements to it, and I think had they gone that route, it would have been very, very cool back in the 90s to have like this little bit of a Cthulhu mutates cult infected the West, and Mr. Hex stumbles across it, gets involved, and yeah, that would have been neat. I think I would have much rather read that than the Riders of the Worm, but it was still good. It's again, is it going to be an ultra valuable comic series? No, come on, they've already made a Jonah Hex movie. Really did very little to propel the comic books, but you know, it still doesn't take away my love of Jonah, and I'm hoping that love will carry on into his great granddaughter, and if they handle it right, I think she could be a fun character, and let's see where it takes us. Anyway, I'll wrap it up there. I just wanted to get some thoughts out about you know, what makes a character good, and finding sort of the character's theme, as it were, like what makes them who they are, what makes us enjoy them. So Jonah's had a long time to get there, and Jonah's got there. I'm hoping Jinny Hex will find her own way in the world of fiction and become a popular character, and that would be wonderful. Her way forward is basically Young Justice, as far as I can see, so I can definitely see her being picked up for the animated series. She has a fan base already, but sometimes we buy it because it's fun, or we like the characters, not just because we think it's going to make money. Thanks for watching. Oh, and thanks for the subscribers too. I'm blown away that people actually subscribe to this channel. Like, quite honestly, not my intention. Just wanted to get some thoughts out there and say, hey, you know, there's some good stuff out there in the past as well, and just don't buy on hype. Buy because you want to read a good story.